안녕하세요. In this video, you're going to learn about active, passive, and causative predicates in Korean. Let's go. Let's learn about active, passive, and causative form of predicate in Korean. Maybe you're not familiar with the term causative if you're not a native English speaker, but don't worry, we'll tell you what it is very shortly. Even though you're a native English speaker, Korean causative predicates are quite different from English, so please listen carefully. Before we start this, we gotta tell you one thing. The Korean grammar about active, passive, and causative predicates is extremely complicated and super difficult. I'm not kidding. So what does it tell you? Yeah, you don't have to try that hard to learn all about it with a couple of pages here. Just casually listen to our explanation. That'll be enough for now. What you need to know now is the fact that there is something like this in Korean. Okay, let's take a look at it. First, active. Active is 능동. 능동 in Korean. Passive is called 피동. 피동. Or sometimes 수동. 수동 in Korean. Causative is called 사동. 사동. 사동 in Korean. You don't have to remember the terms, but if you can, it will be great. If you add 태 sound to each word, it will add a meaning of form. So 능동태 means active form, and 피동태 means passive form. Some people call it 수동태. It's more like English grammar term. The exact Korean grammar term is 피동태, and 사동태 means causative form. You can just use the first two letters, no problem. Active, 능동, passive, 피동, and causative, 사동. Everyone knows about the active form. You don't have to explain about it, right? The subject performs the action in active forms. Next, passive. 피동. The definition of the Korean grammar 피동 is almost the same as the one in English. The subject does not perform the action expressed by the verb, but is affected by it. Yes, it is similar. However, the actual usage is not exactly the same all the time. It's rather very different in many cases. How do you make a passive form in English? Let's see a simple English example. A letter is written by me. When you make a passive voice in English, you use the finite form of to be and past participle of the verb, right? In Korean, there are several ways to turn verbs into the passive forms according to the verb you use. Sometimes you add either 이, 히, 리, or 기 sound to the stem and add the ending. The letters like 이, 히, 리, and 기 can be called affix in English. Or sometimes you add 아 or 어지다, 아지다 or 어지다 to the stem. It's an assistant predicate. Or sometimes you add 당하다 to the stem of certain verbs. Or sometimes add 받다. Or sometimes you add 되다. They are all assistant predicates. Are you shocked? Again, you don't have to remember them right now. Just casually take a look at them and know the fact that there is something like this in Korean grammar. The Korean grammar book says that 피동 is used mostly for the transitive verbs which can take objects. Well, anyway, you don't have to worry about it because normally the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence, right? Then let's talk about the causative forms. 사동 or 사동태. 사동 can be a very strange concept for you if you don't have the same concept in your language. What is 사동 then? 사동 or 사동태 is used when the subject is directly involved in the action and causing someone affected by it. you do the action to someone, and that someone is the one who is affected by that action. Got it? Or it can simply mean the subject makes someone do something. What would it be the case in English? Let's take a look at the English examples. I fly a kite. You don't fly yourself. You fly a kite. A kite is the one that flies, right? In English, you don't change the form of the verb even though you are not the one who is flying. Because the verb fly can be a transitive verb which can take an object, right? But in Korean, the active form of the verb fly cannot take an object. You need to turn it into a causative form. In other words, the form of the verb you use when you fly and the one you use when you fly a kite are different in Korean. You are the one who makes a kite fly. So you need to change the form of the verb fly. Okay? Let's see the next example. I dress a kid. The same thing applies to this sentence too. You're not the one who dresses. You dress someone else. In this case, you should use a causative form in Korean. You make the kid dress. Okay? Now you understand a little bit better. So in English, the verbs like let, make, have, get, and help can be causative verbs. Then let's see how we make causative forms in Korean. You put one of the affixes 이, 히, 리, 기, 우, 구, 추 between stem and ending. Very similar to the passive form, isn't it? Then how can we know whether it's a passive form or causative form? We need to see the context. If you just want to say you make someone do something, you can simply add the assistant verb 개 하다 to the stem. This part is quite simpler than passive forms. You can use 사동, causative forms, to transitive and intransitive verbs and even to adjectives in Korean. But you know what? There are a lot of exceptions. There are a lot of verbs which cannot make the passive forms in Korean. There are a lot of predicates which cannot make the causative forms in Korean. The hardest part is that you need to memorize which affix or assistant verb should be used with which predicate. There is no other ways. There is no fixed rules. Actually, there is a kind of tendency for this, but I don't think that it would help you that much even though we teach you that now. You can learn it at the next level with more vocabularies. But don't worry, you will learn them one by one. Just use the active form for now. I'll give you one tip for you. If it's too hard for you, please don't see it as grammar. Just memorize the entire predicate as vocabulary. Maybe that will be easier for you. It's okay, you at least now know that there is something like this in Korean grammar. Then let's make actual sentences. It will help you understand much better. Let's make a simple active sentence first. I ate dinner. I dinner ate. I 저는 dinner 저녁밥 or 저녁. 저녁 means evening, but in many cases it can mean dinner too. Let's use 저녁밥 here though. 저녁밥. It's an object. Therefore you can add the object particle 을. 저녁밥을. 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 ate. The base form of the verb eat is 먹다. 먹다 in Korean, and 먹 is the stem. We want to put the sentence in the past tense. Therefore, you can add the ending 었어요, right? 먹었어요. 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 저는 저녁밥을 먹었어요. 저는 저녁밥을 먹었어요. It's nothing, right? Then let's make a passive sentence and causative sentence with the same verb 먹다. Passive sentence is 피동문. 피동문 in Korean. Passive is 피동. And sentence can be translated into the one letter 문 in this case. So 피동문 means passive sentence. And causative is 사동 in Korean. So 사동문 means causative sentence. Let's take a look at the English sentence first. A tuna was eaten by a shark. You just seen a shark ate a tuna, so you want to use the past tense in Korean. How do we position the words in this kind of sentence? It's very simple. Of course, the subject, a tuna, comes first, even in Korean, and a shark is the one who takes the action eat. Therefore, let's position it right before the predicative part was eaten. A tuna by a shark was eaten. A tuna is 참치. 참치 in Korean. Let's use the subject particle 가. Because if you use the auxiliary particle 는, it could imply the nuance that there are also other fish which weren't eaten by a shark, even though there is a possibility. It adds the nuance of comparing. Okay? 참치가 by a shark. Shark is 상어. 상어 in Korean. You need to add a particle here. What particle do you want to add here? Don't worry, you don't know. We'll tell you. You add a particle 에게 because it can also indicate someone or something that takes the action in the passive sentence. When did you use this particle 에게 before? Yes, for the indirect object, or when you want to mean you do something to someone, right? You use the particle 에게 for this to someone part. 상어에게. 상어에게. What particle can you use in substitution for 에게 in spoken Korean? Yes, 한테. Therefore, 상어한테 is totally okay too. Please remember that this particle 에게 and 한테 are normally used to a person or people or living things such as animals. Again, 상어에게 or 상어한테 by a shark was eaten. This is the important part. Please listen carefully. The base form of the original verb eat is 먹다 in Korean, and the stem is 먹, right? In order to turn it into the passive form, you need to add the affix he sound to the stem, and add the ending 없어요 with the honorific suffix 요 in the past tense. 먹히 없어요. And as it always does, the affix he and 엇 sound combine together one more time. You know, 이 vowel and 어 vowel makes 여 vowel together, right? 히엇, 히엇, 혓, 혓. It becomes 혓 sound. So 먹히었어요 becomes 먹혔어요. 먹혔어요. You know, it actually sounds 먹혔어요. 먹혔어요 with a k consonant sound because the final g consonant and the h consonant makes aspirated k sound together, right? The point is that you must add only this particular he sound to this very verb 먹다 to turn it into the passive form. You cannot add other affixes. So, as we told you, you don't have to see it as grammar. You can just memorize 먹히다, 먹히다 as the passive form of the verb 먹다, which has the stem 먹히, 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 and just memorize it. Now you know what we are talking about? Okay, very good. So, 참치가 상어에게 먹혔어요. 참치가 상어에게 먹혔어요 means a tuna was eaten by a shark. It's in the passive form. 참치가 상어에게 먹혔어요. Or 참치가 상어한테 먹혔어요. Got it? Okay. There were a couple more assistant predicates that can turn the verb into the passive form. The first one was 어지다 or 아지다. 어지다 or 아지다 is normally used to the verbs that cannot make the passive form with the affix 이, 히, 리 or 기. But in many cases, 어지다, 아지다 can also be used to such verbs. So there's no fixed rule. So you need to separately remember that you cannot use 어지다 to the verb 먹다. Maybe you can hear some native Koreans use it like 먹어지다, 먹어지다, but it's not correct word. So I don't want you to use it. And there were 당하다, 받다, 되다. These three assistant predicates are used to the particular verbs that cannot make the passive form with either the affix 이히리기 or 어지다, 아지다. Actually, they are used to the transitive verbs which end in 하다 in their base forms. So you cannot use them for the verb 먹다. It's simply because they don't match with the verb 먹다. Only the affix he can be used when it turns into the passive form. It can make the passive form with the affix he, 먹히다. Okay? It's getting clearer, isn't it? Okay, let's see the next example. I fed milk to the cat. Fed or feed is just a verb in an active form in English. But in Korean, you need to turn it into the causative form 사동 because of the two reasons. First, the verb which means feed in Korean is in the causative form. And in Korean grammar, when the subject is directly involved in the action, but the object is the one affected by it, you need to use the causative form. Okay, let's rearrange the words. I, to the cat, milk, fed. To the cat is the indirect object, and milk is the direct object. So you understand how the words have to be arranged in Korean, right? I, 제가. Let's use the subject particle 가. No reason. Just imagine the situation that someone asks you who feed milk to the cat, and you answer, I am the one. That's why. To the cat. Cat is 고양이. 고양이 in Korean. It's indirect object and a living thing. What particle do you want to use? Yes, 에게 or 한테. Let's use 에게. 고양이에게. 고양이에게. To the cat. Milk is 우유. 우유. 우유 in Korean. It's a direct object. You can add an object particle 를. 우유를. 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 Fed. This is the important part again. Please listen carefully. We are going to make a causative form with the stem of the active form 먹다. When you make a causative form of the verb 먹다, you add the affix 이. You add the affix 이. Okay? This time, 이, not he. And add the ending 없어요. Because it's in the past tense. 먹이었어요. As you know, 이 and 엇 sound combine together one more time and make 엿 sound. So 먹이었어요 becomes 먹였어요. 먹였어요. And it's in the causative form. The point is, you must add the affix 이 to the stem 먹 to make a causative form of this very verb 먹다. You cannot add other affixes, okay? I, 제가, to the cat, 고양이에게, milk, 우유를, fed, 먹였어요. 제가 고양이에게 우유를 먹였어요. 제가 고양이에게 우유를 먹였어요. 제가 고양이에게 우유를 먹였어요. And as we told you, if it's too complicated, you don't have to think about the process or grammar. And just memorize that 먹이다, 먹이다 is the causative form of the verb 먹다. Or 먹이다 is the translation of the English verb feed. Okay? Either way is okay, I think, because you need to memorize them anyway. And there was an assistant predicate which turned the verb into the causative form. It was 개하다, 개해요. Then let's add 개하다 to the stem 먹, and see what's gonna happen. 먹 plus 개하다, 개해요. It's in the past tense, therefore let's add 했어요 instead of 하다. 먹 plus 개했어요. 먹게 했어요. 먹게 했어요. And let's use the particle 한테 this time, which won't change the nuance or meaning. 제가 고양이한테 우유를 먹게 했어요. 제가 고양이한테 우유를 먹게 했어요. Then what's the difference? The first sentence, 제가 고양이에게 우유를 먹였어요, sounds like literally you just feed your cat. But the second sentence, 제가 고양이한테 우유를 먹게 했어요, sounds a little bit more like you forced the cat to eat milk. It sounds like literally you made a cat eat milk. There are exceptions, but most of the cases, 개하다 sounds like you made someone do something. Okay? Plus, this 개하다 is a little bit different from the assistant predicates for the passive forms above, because you can use this 개하다 with a lot of verbs. Even you can use 개하다 when you don't know what affix you should add to the particular predicate when you want to make a causative sentence. So it is very useful. Just remember that it sounds more like you make someone do something normally. Let's take a look at a couple of more examples. Let's see the English sentence in the active. I hugged Mina. I, Mina, hugged. Let's use the subject 저 with the subject particle 가 this time. 제가, 제가. You might wonder why we keep changing the particle that is used with the subject. It's just to let you be familiar with the fact that you can choose the particle you want. In this case, we assume the nuance that the auxiliary particle 는 has wouldn't go with the possible context of this sentence. That's it. By the way, you know that the particle 저 can be omitted or understood in many cases in Korean, right? So you can completely get rid of the subject 저 in Korean. It's good news for you because it might be very difficult for you to understand the exact usage of the subject particle and auxiliary particle right now. You'll understand much better when you study Korean with the context and dialogue later. You don't have to say 저는 or 제가 unless you have a particular reason to use either of them in a real-life conversation. Okay? Mina is the Korean female name. 민아 is just 민아. It's an object of the verb hug. So you can put the object particle 를, 민아를, 미나를, 미나를, hugged. The base form of the verb hug is 앉다 in Korean. 앉다. The initial d consonant in 다 sound is pronounced 따 with a double consonant 뜨 sound because of the final 느 consonant in the formal block. We learned about this before. The final 느 consonant turns the first initial consonant of the ending into the double consonant sound. Again, it only affects the initial of the ending. It doesn't affect affixes. 앉다 is a verb in Korean too. It can mean to hug, to cuddle, or to embrace. Anyway, 앉다 can be used to mean that you put your arms around someone or something, or you hold something in your arms. Again, 앉다 can mean to put your arms around something or someone, or to hold something or someone in your arms. Arms around or in your arms. Both are possible. Remember that. The stem is 안. In order to put it in the past tense, you add 앗어요, 앗어요 to the stem 안. 안, 앗어요, 안았어요. It's actually pronounced 안았어요. 안았어요. Right? Because of all the round empty consonant 이응. 제가 미나를 안았어요. 제가 미나를 안았어요. This is in the active. We don't have problem with that, right? Let's take a look at the next example. Mina was hugged by me. Of course, we don't use the passive sentence like this in English normally. But in Korean, you use the passive form a lot. We'll tell you why very shortly. We are now learning how to make the passive sentence which is called 피동문 in Korean. Let's rearrange the words. Min-a, by me, was hugged. Before we make this sentence, we like to make one thing very clear. We are not teaching you how to translate English into Korean. We are using English sentences just to let you understand the structure of the Korean sentences better. So what you are learning now is the structure of the Korean sentences and basic grammar you should know to go on to the next level. And that's what you should do at level 1. Again, we are not teaching you how to translate the English sentences into Korean sentences. We are teaching you the structure of the Korean sentences and the basic things you must know to understand this language better. Therefore, you have to understand you cannot always directly translate English into Korean. You cannot always directly translate any language into Korean. They are different languages. So we recommend you should try to learn directly from Korean itself. Of course, it is a good strategy that you keep comparing Korean to the language you already know. But you should know that sometimes it's not possible to logically translate English or any language into Korean, or the other way around. So you need to understand the exact meaning and the usage of the Korean words, phrases, and sentences. We believe you've got the point. Okay, the sentence structure is going to be something like this in Korean. Min-a, by me, was hugged. Mina is just min-a. Let's add a subject particle, ga. Min-a-ga. Minaga. By me. Me is 저. What particle did we tell you to use for this? Yes, 에게. 저에게. 저에게. What nuance does this particle 에게 provide then? Can you feel it? We'll tell you shortly anyway. Let's take a look at the predicated part. Was hugged. It's in the passive voice. The base form of the verb hug is 안다 in Korean, and the stem is 안, right? In order to turn it into the passive form, you need to add the affix 기 to the stem 안 and add 없어요 to put it in the past tense. 안, 기, 없어요. 기 and 엇 sound combine together one more time and make 곁 sound. 기엇, 곁, 곁. 안겼어요. 안겼어요. It's actually pronounced 안겼어요, right? 안겼어요. 안겼어요. You might want to ask why 겨 sound has not turned into the 껴 sound with the initial double consonant because of the final n consonant in the formal block. It's because this 기 sound is not the part of the ending. It's the affix. That is why. So 안겼어요. 안겼어요 is fine. 안 꼈어요 is wrong. 민아, 미나가 by me, 저에게 was hugged. 안겼어요. 미나가 저에게 안겼어요. 미나가 저에게 안겼어요. If you don't want to remember all the grammar that makes the passive form of the verb 안다 in Korean, you can just remember that 안기다 is the passive form of the verb 안다. Just remember 안기다 as a different verb. You don't have to know the process. But the exact meaning of this passive verb 안기다 is a little bit different from the English. Again, this Korean sentence is also in the passive. But you should know that this Korean sentence 미나가 저에게 안겼어요 sounds a little bit different from the English sentence Mina was hugged by me. We'll tell you how. Let's take a look at the English sentence again. Mina was hugged by me. In this English passive sentence, who's the one that takes an action? Yes, me, is still the one who hugged Mina, right? I hugged Mina. The subject I is the one who takes an action. You've just changed the subject to Mina to make the passive sentence in English. But in the Korean sentence, 미나가 저에게 안겼어요. Mina can be the one who came into my arms and then I just put my arms around her. Do you know the difference? Mina can be the one who takes an action too. The passive verb 안기다 means something or someone actually comes into your arms so that you put your arms around it. This is exactly what we're talking about. Even though you logically make the sentence according to the rule or grammar, there's a possibility that the result wouldn't have exactly the same meaning as the English or any other languages you speak. Therefore, you need to know the exact meaning of the Korean words, phrases, sentences, and how to use them. Please try not to always directly translate the language you already know into Korean. Sometimes it won't work like that. Plus, Koreans use this passive verb 안기다 a lot. Because, think about it, there must be the situation where someone comes into your chest to be hugged, right? It's not like you should always be the one who hugs someone. Someone can make a move first. You use this passive verb 안기다 to say that someone comes into your arms to be hugged. Of course, you can also use this passive verb 안기다 to mean someone is hugged by you as English. But when you want to say you hugged someone, you just use the active. There's no reason for us to use the passive form to say that I hugged someone. But this Korean verb 안기다, this Korean passive verb 안기다 is used a lot in Korean because it can mean that someone actually comes into your arms so that you put your arms around to embrace, okay? Now, think about the nuance that the particle 에게 has. This particle 에게 is a little bit strange. Because if you look at the Korean dictionary, it is said that the particle 에게 can indicate the object which performs the action, like 저 in this passive sentence. Or it can also indicate the object which is affected by the subject or action, like 고양이 in the previous causative sentence. I fed milk to the cat. So it can be very confusing for you to understand. By the way, the words used with the particle 에게 are not called an object in Korean grammar actually, but they are called adverb or adverbial phrase. What we call an object here is not a grammatical term. Anyway, we don't care, right? Whatever. What we really need to know is the place where this particle 에게 is used in the sentence, and maybe the nuance or meaning it has. The exact usage of this particle, 에게, is more difficult to understand in the passive because sometimes it is not used with certain passive verbs to indicate the word which performs the action. It's mainly because of the quality that this particle, 에게, has. We told you before this particle, 에게, is used to indicate the indirect object. For example, to someone, in the sentence like, I give something to someone. Because the particle 에게 indicates the direction and destination as the English preposition to or toward does. It is a bit complicated, so please listen carefully. You can still use this particle, 에게, for the word which actually performs the action in the passive sentence, like 저 in this sentence. But because of the fact that the particle 에게 can also indicate the word which is affected by the subject or action that the subject takes, like the indirect object to someone. Sometimes this particle, 에게, cannot be used for the word that actually performs the action in the passive sentence. Why? As we told you, it can sound like you are indicating the indirect object or something that is affected by the action, not the one that actually performs the action. Okay? Quite difficult, isn't it? You'll understand this better and better as we go on. Don't worry. Let's think about the sentence we saw in the previous page. A tuna was eaten by a shark. 참치가 tuna, 상어에게 by a shark, 먹혔어요, was eaten. What's the one that ate a tuna? It was a shark. So a shark was the one who performed the action eat, right? So you can say that you use the particle 에게 for a shark, 상어, because 상어 was the one that performed the action. Or you can say that you use the particle 에게 because tuna went into the shark's mouth. To the shark's mouth. Okay? I mean, you can say that because of the quality that the particle 에게 has. Okay? How about the sentence we are looking at right now? 미나가 저에게 안겼어요. As we told you, Mina can be the one who took the action too. She came into my arms to be hugged. I just put my arms around her. To my arms. Into my arms. 에게, right? She 안기다. To me. So when you want to understand the reason why this particle 에게 can be used for the word which actually performs the action in the passive sentence, you can think that the passive verb is happened to you. Eaten a tuna is happened to a shark. Of course, the shark was the one who did the action. We know, but think about the fact that it's in the passive. And 안기다, the action by Mina coming into your arms is happened to you. Okay? The point is, you can say that the particle 에게 is used for the one that performs the action in the passive sentence. But you should know that sometimes the quality indicating the direction and destination that the particle 에게 has remains even in the passive sentence. And that is the reason why you cannot use this particle with the passive form of the certain verbs. You'll know what it means later. A tiny bit clearer? It's fine. It's super difficult to learn anyway, even for native Koreans. So let's move on. You'll learn more about this later again. You don't have to learn how to translate the English passive sentences into Korean. What you really have to know is the fact that the passive verbs are used a lot in Korean. That's enough. One more thing. You normally don't use the assistant predicate 어지다 for the verb 안다, which means to hug. You can use it, but you don't normally. Just keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the next example. Mina made me hold a baby in my arms. The subject makes you do something, or the subject is directly involved in the action and causing someone affected by it. This sentence means Mina handed a baby to me and made me hold it in my arms. To me. Okay? You use the causative form of the verb in Korean in this kind of situation. Causative is called 사동, and the causative sentence is called 사동문. We're going to use the Korean verb 안다, which means to hug or to hold something in your arms. Therefore, the entire made hold in my arms is going to be the predicated part in Korean. Yeah, it will be one causative verb in Korean, actually. Let's rearrange the words first. 민아 comes first. And then let's put the object of the English causative verb make right after it. Me. It's not important if it's called object or omelette in English. It's the one who is made to hold a baby by the subject Mina. That's it. And then let's place a baby next, which is the object of the verb hold. You can change the position of me and a baby in Korean. It doesn't really matter because we are going to use particles to mark the exact role of them in the sentence. And then let's put the predicative part, made hold in my arms, at the end. 민아, me, a baby, made hold in my arms. Let's change the process this time. Let's take a look at the predicated part first. Made hold in my arms. As we told you, in Korean, you use the causative form when the subject is directly involved in the action and causing someone affected by it, or the subject makes someone do something, right? So the subject Mina gave me a baby and have me hold it in my arms. So we need to use the Korean causative verb for the made hold in my arms part. This is the important part. Please listen carefully. Strangely, when you make a causative form of the verb 안다 in Korean, you add a same affix 기 that you used for the passive form to the stem 안. So 안기다 is both the passive form and the causative form of the verb 안다. And 안기다 here means you give something to someone and make him or her hold it in his or her arms. Then how we know if it's used as a passive form or a causative form? It's simple. When 안기다 is used as the causative, it takes a direct object like a baby in this sentence. Okay? The subject gave a baby to me, right? The English sentence is in the past tense, therefore you can add 었어요 at the end. And 기 and 엇 sound combine one more time and make 곁 sound with 여 vowel. 안겼어요. It's the same 안겼어요, right? Let's see the subject then. 민아 is just 민아. Let's use the subject particle 가. 미나가. If you use the auxiliary particle 는, it will provide a nuance of comparing. So let's just use the subject particle 가. 미나가. Me. The subject Mina gave a baby to me. So you can use the particle 에게, right? To me. The subject did the causative verb to me. 저에게. 안겼어요 means the subject Mina handed the baby to you and made you hold it in your arms. To you. 에게. Okay? Or you can also think that you use the particle 에게 for the one who is made to do something by the subject in the causative sentence. Because we told you that the particle 에게 can used for the word which is affected by the action of the subject. You can think whichever way is easier for you. A baby. A baby is 아기. 아기 in Korean. It's a direct object. So you can add the object particle 를. 아기를. 아기를. Gave it and made me hold in my arms. 안겼어요. 안겼어요. 미나가 저에게 아기를 안겼어요. 미나가 저에게 아기를 안겼어요. Okay? 안겼어요 here means the subject gave a baby to me and made me hold it in my arms. Okay? 미나가 저에게 아기를 안겼어요. And what assistant predicate you can use to mean make someone do something? Yes, 게 하다. So the stem 안 plus 게 했어요. 앉게 했어요. 앉게 했어요. This time, the 게 sound turns into 깨 sound with a double consonant, affected by the final 느 consonant in the formal block because 게 sound is a part of the ending. 게 하다 is an assistant verb and the ending at the same time. Okay? Ending. Okay? So, 앉게 했어요 is actually pronounced 앉게 했어요. 앉게 했어요. 앉게 했어요. And it means someone made you hold something in your arms. Someone made you cuddle something. Okay? So, 미나가 저에게 아기를 안게 했어요. 미나가 저에게 아기를 안게 했어요. Is also a correct sentence. But the difference is the first sentence 미나가 저에게 아기를 안겼어요 sounds more like Mina just handed the baby to you and you held the baby in your arms. And the second sentence, 미나가 저에게 아기를 안게 했어요. 미나가 저에게 아기를 안게 했어요. Sounds more like literally, Mina made you cuddle a baby. Okay? Very good. Let's learn about the verb 주다, which means to give in Korean. Let's see the English sentence first. I gave Mina my phone number. This English sentence is in the English sentence pattern number 4. Subject, I, plus verb, gave, plus indirect object, Mina, plus direct object, my phone number, right? Let's rearrange the words. The subject, I, comes first, and the indirect object, Mina, comes. Let's add a preposition to Mina, to clarify the role of it in the sentence. And the direct object, my phone number, comes. And then the verb, gave, comes at the end. I, to Mina, my phone number, gave. Let's say the subject I is understood this time. Therefore, you don't have to mention the subject I. To Mina, you don't even have to know it's an indirect object in English grammar. You gave something to Mina. Therefore, you use the particle 에게, 민아에게, 미나에게, 미나에게. Of course, you can use the particle 한테 too, which is used more commonly in spoken Korean. 미나한테, 미나한테. My phone number. My is 제. If you think it's also understood in the context, you don't have to mention the possessive my either. Phone number is 전화번호, 전화번호, 전화번호 in Korean. 제 전화번호, my phone number. It's a direct object. Therefore, you can add the object particle 를. 제 전화번호를, 제 전화번호를 gave. The base form of the verb give is 주다 in Korean. The stem is 주. It's in the past tense. Therefore, you add 었어요, 주었어요. 주 and 엇 sound can combine one more time. 주엇, 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 주엇. It becomes 주엇 sound with 워 vowel. 줬어요, 줬어요, 줬어요. 미나에게 제 전화번호를 줬어요. 미나에게 제 전화번호를 줬어요. I gave my phone number to Mina, right? Or 미나한테 제 전화번호를 줬어요. 미나한테 제 전화번호를 줬어요. Let's make the passive sentence. My phone number was given to Mina by me. This is something new. We never made a Korean sentence like this before, so please listen carefully. Let's rearrange the words. The main subject of the passive sentence, my phone number, comes first. And then the phone number was given by whom? Right, me. As you know, the position of the words in Korean is not something fixed. It's relatively flexible because we add an element such as particles to the words to clarify the role of them in the sentence. Anyway, let's position by me next because it indicates someone who actually gave the phone number to Mina. So it can be naturally positioned before to Mina and was given. Who did you give the phone number to? Yes, to Mina. And the predicated part was given comes at the end. My phone number by me to Mina was given. Let's take a look at the predicated part first. Was given. The base form of the verb give is 주다 in Korean, 주다. And the stem is 주. Which affix do you want to add this time? Don't worry, you don't know. We'll tell you. You cannot use any affix for the verb 주다. You should use the assistant predicate 어지다 this time. Finally. Again, when you make the passive form of the verb 주다, to give, you don't use any affix. You should add the assistant predicate 어지다. Why? There's no reason. That's what makes us crazy, and that is the point. You have to just memorize it. So, as we told you, you can just memorize that 주어지다. 주어지다 is the passive base form of the verb 주다, and the stem is 주어지. Okay? Was given. The sentence is in the past tense. Therefore, you get rid of the ending 다 from the base form 어지다 and add 없어요 to 어지. 주 plus 어지 plus 없어요. 주어지었어요. And 지 and 엇 sound combine one more time as they do always. 지엇, 지엇, 젖. It becomes 젖 sound with 여 vowel. So 주어졌어요. 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 Was given. 주어졌어요. Is given. 주어져요. Was given. 주어졌어요. Okay? Who was the given the phone number to? To 민아. What's the particle? Yes, 에게. 민아에게. Or 한테. 민아한테. It was given by whom? By me. Me is 저, as you know. What particle do you want to use? Sorry, we keep asking something you don't know yet. We'll tell you. This can be very confusing. Please listen carefully. We explained a lot about the particle 에게 in the previous page, right? We told you that the particle 에게 can be used to indicate someone who actually performs the action in the passive sentence. But the particle 에게 cannot be used here. There are two major reasons. First, the particle 에게 has already used for 민아, who is the receiver. You cannot use the particle 에게 again for 저, who actually gave the phone number to Mina, because the audience will not be able to understand which 에게 indicates what exactly. You know the particles are used in Korean to indicate the exact role of the words in the sentence, right? Second, this particle 에게 is not used with a passive verb 주어지다 in Korean to indicate the one who actually performs the action. Why? It's because of the same quality that we explained earlier that the particle 에게 has. It kinda indicates a direction or a destination as the English preposition to or toward does. So if you use the particle 에게 with the passive verb 주어지다, the word with the particle 에게 will always looks like the receiver, like Mina in this sentence. So you should remember this separately, but it wouldn't be so difficult if you understand the exact usage of the particle 에게. Then what should we add to 저 to indicate the exact role of it in the sentence? In this case, you use something else. Take a look at this carefully. 에 의해. 에 의해. 에 is the particle and 의해 is actually a verb. But you don't have to know that. Just memorize the entire 에 의해. The particle 에 indicates the reason or cause. And 의해 means based on or caused by. So people normally use this 에 의해 for the direct translation of the English preposition by when it indicates something or someone who performs the action in the passive sentence. So amazingly, you can use this 에 의해 in substitution for the particle 에게 in the passive sentence in many cases. Not always, in many cases. However, if you always use this 에 의해 in the passive sentence, it will definitely sound like a foreigner. So we recommend you use this 에 의해 when it's required actually. This is where it is required actually. 저에 의해 by me. 저에 의해. 저에 의해. 저에 의해. 저에 의해. My phone number, 제 전화번호가. My phone number by me to Mina was given. 제 전화번호가 저에 의해 미나에게 주어졌어요. was given. 제 전화번호가 저에 의해 미나에게 주어졌어요. or 제 전화번호가 저에 의해 미나한테 주어졌어요. 제 전화번호가 저에 의해 미나한테 주어졌어요. Perfect. But you know what? Who on earth would talk like this in a real-life conversation? So what you just need to remember now is the fact that the passive form of the verb 주다 is 주어지다. 주어지다. That's enough. Let's take a look at the next example. Minho made me give my phone number to Mina. Well, maybe this sentence might be useful if this kind of situation actually occurs. We are going to make a causative verb with the active verb 주다. Therefore, the entire made give is going to be the predicative part in Korean. Let's rearrange the words. The main subject Minho comes first in the Korean sentence too. Who gave the phone number? Yes, me. Let's put me next. To whom? Yes, to Mina. What's the object? My phone number. And the predicative part, made give, comes at the end. Minho, me, to Mina, my phone number, made give. Let's take a look at the predicative part first. Made give. We want to make a Korean causative verb, which means someone makes you give something with the base form 주다. Interestingly, you don't use any affix this time either. In order to turn the verb 주다 into the causative form, you should use the assistant verb 개하다. And that's the only way. So the stem 주 plus 개하다. We want to put it in the past tense, therefore 주게 했어요. 주게 했어요. Which means someone made you give something. Made give. 주게 했어요. Okay? What did you give? Yes, my phone number. 제 전화번호. It's an object which is actually given. So you can use the object particle 를. 제 전화번호를. 제 전화번호를. To whom? To Mina. What is the particle? Yes, 에게. 미나에게. 미나에게. This 에게 doesn't indicate someone who is affected by the action in the causative sentence. It simply indicates indirect object of the verb give, right? To Mina, someone who receives something. 미나에게. Or, of course, you can use the particle 한테 too. 미나한테. Who gave the phone number? Yes, me. But someone made me do that. Me is 저 in Korean. But we need to add something to tell that I was told to do that. This is something new again, so please listen carefully. In English, we can find out that the pronoun me is an object because it's positioned right after the main verb in the sentence. But in Korean, we add something such as particle to indicate the exact role of the word in the sentence. We have to add something to 저 to say that someone made me do something. You cannot use 에 의해 because it means by someone in the passive sentence. In order to say that someone made you do something, you add 로 하여금, 로 하여금 to the pronoun 저, 저로 하여금, 저로 하여금. 로 is the particle and 하여금 is an adverb, but you don't have to know that. Just remember 로 하여금, 로 하여금. When there is a final consonant in the formal block, you use 으로 하여금, 으로 하여금. This 하여금 indicates the subject which is made to do something. Okay? The main subject 민호 is the one who makes someone do something. And the pronoun me is the one who was made to give the phone number to Mina by 민호, right? So you use 로 하여금 for the pronoun me to indicate that me is the one who was actually made to give the phone number to Mina by Minho. 저로 하여금, 저로 하여금, 저로 하여금. A little bit complicated, right? But you have to learn all this to speak Korean properly anyway, so don't be so stressed, okay? Whenever you hear 로 하여금, you should know that the noun right before 로 하여금 is the one who is made to do something by someone. Because 로 하여금 already implies that the subject makes someone do something. Like 에 의해, which indicates the one who actually performs the action in the passive sentence. This 로 하여금 can be used to someone who is made to do something by the subject in the causative sentence most of the time. Okay? If you don't really understand this, just casually listen to our explanation. As you keep learning the same things over and over again, you will know how to use them anyway. Okay? 민호 is just 민호. Let's use the subject particle 가. 민호가, 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 me, 저로 하여금, 저로 하여금, to Mina, 미나에게, my phone number, 제 전화번호를 made give, 주게 했어요. made me give it to Mina. Okay? 주게 했어요. 민호가 저로 하여금 미나에게 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. 민호가 저로 하여금 미나에게 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. Or 민호가 저로 하여금 미나한테 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. Quite complicated and confusing, isn't it? But there's good news for you. This 하여금 is not really used in spoken Korean. Of course you can use it, no problem. But it's preferred in written Korean. When you actually talk, you rather use 에게 or 한테, which is much familiar to you. So you can use 에게 or 한테 instead of 로 하여금 or 으로 하여금. You know you can use the particle 에게 or 한테 for someone who is affected by the action in the causative sentence. In other words, for someone who is made to do something by the subject, right? Let's see the sentence first then. 민호가 저한테 미나에게 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. We've used 한테 for the pronoun me, who was made to give the phone number to Mina by Minho. Then why now we can use the same particle 에게 or 한테 for this, since we've already used 에게 for the indirect object to Mina? Would people not be confused if we use the same particle 에게 for 저 and Mina at the same time? Maybe yes or maybe no. We'll explain. First of all, you can use the same particle for both of them. People will understand the sentence. But some might think it sounds a bit weird because exactly the same particle appear in the sentence consecutively. Anyway, it's still possible. If you want to sound a bit clearer, you can use a different particle for each. Because, fortunately, we have two particles which have exactly the same role. 한테 and 에게. So you can use the particle 한테 for 저 and 에게 for Mina, or the other way around. So even though you say 민호가 저에게, 미나에게 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요, or 민호가 저한테, 미나한테 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요, people will understand what it means. But if you think it sounds weird, you can use a different particle for each. Like 민호가 저한테, 미나에게 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. Or 민호가 저에게, 미나한테 제 전화번호를 주게 했어요. We cannot grammatically explain why the same particles could be used consecutively and indicate two different roles in this causative sentence, but maybe native Koreans are able to separate this one sentence into two parts automatically in their heads. 민호가 저한테 or 민호가 저에게 주게 했어요. 민호가 저한테 주게 했어요. 민호가 저에게 주게 했어요. Which means 민호 made me give and 미나에게 전화번호를, which means my phone number to Mina. In other words, we can automatically know that 민호가 저한테 or 민호가 저에게 links to 주게 했어요 as a set. And this first 한테 or 에게 indicate someone who is made to give something by the subject 민호. Okay? Let's learn about the verb 건설하다. 건설하다, which means to construct or to build. Let's take a look at the English sentence first. The government constructed the bridge or built the bridge. Let's rearrange the words. The government, the bridge, constructed. It's a simple active sentence. The government is 정부. 정부 in Korean. Let's add a subject particle, 가. 정부가. 정부가. The bridge is 다리. 다리 in Korean. We know it could sound like 다리. 다리 with a T sound to many people, but it's not 다리. It's 다리. 다리. It's an object. Let's add the object particle, 를. 다리를. 다리를. Constructed. The base form of the verb construct is 건설하다. 건설하다 in Korean. It's one of the noun plus 하다 verbs. It's in the past tense, therefore you use 했어요 instead of 하다. 건설했어요. 건설했어요. 정부가 다리를 건설했어요. 정부가 다리를 건설했어요. Then let's make a sentence in the passive voice. The bridge was constructed by the government. The bridge by government was constructed. Let's see the predicative part first. Was constructed. When you turn the verb 건설하다 into the passive form, you use neither affix nor the assistant verb 어지다. Normally, transitive verbs end in 하다. Do not use either an affix or the assistant verb 어지다. Well, sometimes people use 어지다 with the verbs end in 하다, and people might understand what it means, but it will sound quite weird. Then, what should we use? You add a suffix, 되다, 되다, in order to turn the verb 건설하다 into the passive. Yes, 되다 is called a suffix, but it doesn't really matter whether you call it a suffix or assistant predicate. It means nothing to us. Anyway, you use 되다, 되다. But you don't add it to the stem. You add it to the noun 건설, 건설, which means construction. So the passive form of the verb 건설하다 is 건설되다, 건설되다. It's not 건설하되다. It's just 건설되다. We also use this 되다 to mean to become. Remember, the verb 되다 and the suffix 되다 are not the same thing actually. But anyway, they both share the quality that someone starts to change and develop into something, or starts to develop the characteristics mentioned. So it is not surprising that this 되다 sound turns certain verbs into the passive voice. But it's not like you can add 되다 to any verb ends in 하다 to turn it into the passive form. It depends on verbs. That's why these passive and causative things are so difficult. You have to memorize the passive verb 건설되다 separately besides the active verb 건설하다. You want to put it in the past tense with the honorific suffix 요. So you get rid of 다 sound from 되다 and add 없어요. Or you can think 건설돼 is the stem of the passive verb 건설되다 and you add 없어요 to the stem 건설돼. 건설돼 and 었어요. As you know, 돼 and 엇 sound can combine together one more time. Sometimes the last letter of the stem and or at, ot sound have to combine, and sometimes they don't have to combine. It's so confusing. Therefore, let's just combine them together. Let's not make an exception. 돼, 엇 always becomes 됐. 됐 sound with 왜 vowel. Please remember that. So, 건설되었어요 becomes 건설됐어요. 건설됐어요. For your information, 건설되었어요 is also fine. But let's not make an exception. Let's always use 건설됐어요 or 건설돼요. By whom? By the government. Government is 정부 in Korean. We are not going to use 에게. We're gonna use 에 의해. 에 의해. By the government. Yes, it's partly because 정부 is neither a person nor an animal. But it's mainly because the quality that this particle 에게 has does not go with the verb 건설되다. The particle 에게 and 한테 have the meaning of to or into. If you use the particle 에게 for this sentence, 정부에게, it would rather sound like the bridge is constructed to the government or on the site of the government property or something. School grammar teaches you that 에게 is used to people or animals. Yes, it's true, but you can use 에게 for non-living things too in many cases. Therefore, it's not the main reason. It's more related to the main predicate than the noun added to the particle 에게. Therefore, we can say that 에 의해 is used because of the fact that we use the passive verb 건설되다. And the meaning that the particle 에게 and 한테 have is not required here or does not go with the verb 건설되다. By the government. 정부에 의해. Can we use the particle 에게 instead then? No, you cannot. Then can we use the particle 에게 if the bridge was constructed by me, 저, a person? No, you cannot. Because the passive verb 건설되다 goes only with 에 의해. Therefore, you can say that it's more related to what passive verb is used than who performs the action. Okay? By the government. 정부에 의해. By me. 저에 의해. The bridge. Bridge is 다리 in Korean. Legs are also 다리. They are homonyms, pronounced or spelt in the same way but having different meanings. 다리. It's the subject. Let's use the subject particle 가. 다리가. 다리가. The bridge. 다리가. By the government. 정부에 의해. Was constructed. 건설됐어요. 다리가 정부에 의해 건설됐어요. 다리가 정부에 의해 건설됐어요. Then let's make a sentence in the causative voice. Let's take a look at the English sentence first. The government had the bridge constructed. What does this sentence mean? It means you don't have the information who actually constructed the bridge, but the government made someone construct it. The government didn't do it, but it is directly involved in the action and causing someone affected by it. It made someone construct the bridge. You use a causative form in this case. Let's rearrange the words. The government, the bridge, had constructed. The government, 정부. Let's use the subject particle 가, 정부가. The bridge. You know there is always an object when the causative verb is a transitive verb. Bridge is 다리. Let's add the object particle 를 because it's the object of the verb construct. 다리를. Had something constructed. The base form of the verb construct is 건설하다 in Korean. 건설하 is the stem. When the base form of the verb has 하다 part, you always use 개하다 to make a causative predicate. It's the only thing you can remember as a rule about the causative. Let's add 개하다 to the stem 건설하. 건설하게 하다. 건설하게 하다. It means you make someone construct something. 건설하게 하다. 건설하게 하다 contains the meaning make someone construct. You know that, right? It should be in the past tense, so let's use 했어요 instead of 하다. 건설하게 했어요. 건설하게 했어요. 정부가 다리를 건설하게 했어요. The government had the bridge constructed. 정부가 다리를 건설하게 했어요. Then let's say the government made someone construct the bridge this time. Let's just say that someone is the company. The government, the company, the bridge, made construct. Let's take a look at the predicative part first. Made construct. We'll tell you something new. The direct translation of the verb make is 만들다. 만들다 in Korean. When you want to say that you make someone do something, you can actually use this verb 만들다 to mean to make in the form of 개 만들다. Again, you can use 개 만들다 instead of 개 하다 in most of the cases when you want to say you make someone do something. Let's add 개 만들다 to the stem 건설하. 건설하게 만들다. 건설하게 만들다. Yes, it means almost the same as 건설하게 하다. The sentence should be in the past tense. Therefore, let's get rid of the suffix 다 and add 었어요 instead. 건설하게 만들었어요. 건설하게 만들었어요. 건설하게 만들었어요. And 건설하게 했어요. 건설하게 했어요. They mean almost the same. So the government, 정부가, the company. Company is 회사 in Korean. Let's say you and the audience both know which company you are talking about. So you can just indicate the company with a modifier 그, which is used to indicate something you and the listener both already know. 그 can be also used as the translation of the English definite article the in many cases because 그 indicates something you and the listener both already know. The company, 그 회사, 그 회사. We're gonna add 로 하여금 here to indicate someone who was made to construct the bridge. 그 회사로 하여금. 그 회사로 하여금. Then can we use 에게 or 한테 here? Yes, you can, even though the company is not a living thing. Don't you think it's way too complicated? Well, I think so. But don't worry, it looks so difficult because it is your first time seeing this. You will get familiar with them sometime soon. We'll help you. The bridge, 다리. Let's add the object particle, 를, 다리를. Because it's something constructed. It's an object of the causative verb, 건설하게 만들다, 건설하게 하다. You can add the modifier 그 if you want to sound like you are indicating the bridge that you and the audience both already know even though you don't see it right now. 그 다리를. 정부가 그 회사로 하여금 그 다리를 건설하게 만들었어요. 정부가 그 회사로 하여금 그 다리를 건설하게 만들었어요. Or 정부가 그 회사에게 그 다리를 건설하게 했어요. 정부가 그 회사에게 그 다리를 건설하게 했어요. Or 정부가 그 회사한테 그 다리를 건설하게 만들었어요. Or 정부가 그 회사한테 그 다리를 건설하게 했어요. They are all fine. What you have to learn on this page is the passive form of the verb 건설하다 is 건설되다. And the causative form is 건설하게 만들다 or 건설하게 하다. That's enough. We learned a little bit about the passive and causative forms in Korean in this lesson. Of course, there are a lot more to learn. You cannot learn them all with this one lesson. The passive and causative voices are used a lot in Korean. So you'll see and hear them quite often as you study Korean. We'll talk about them again whenever we see them again. On this page, let's take a look at many different passive verbs and see how they are formed. First, the Korean passive verbs with the affix e. We are not going to explain about other things like pronunciations on this page. We'll just quick take a look at them. When you want to say you put something on somewhere, you use 놓다. 놓다 in Korean. It's in the active voice, right? But when you want to say something is put on somewhere by someone, which is in the passive voice, you use 놓이다, 놓이다, with the affix e. Can you see how it works? Okay. The verb to pile is 쌓다 in the active voice, and to be piled is 쌓이다, and it's in the passive voice. The verb to see is 보다, 보다 in the active voice, and to be seen is 보이다, 보이다, and it's in the passive voice. Koreans say something is seen a lot instead of I see something in many cases. That is why you get to know this passive form 보이다 in Korean, okay? To use is 쓰다 in the active voice and 쓰이다, 쓰이다 in the passive voice. To tie is 묶다, and to be tied is 묶이다. To mix is 섞다, and to be mixed is 섞이다, 섞이다 in Korean. And you see the verbs with the final double 그 consonant or 흐 consonant, or with the no final consonant, use the affix e to become the passive. You can say that, but it's not an absolute rule. Therefore, you should keep trying to remember them separately as if they are different words. Okay? Then let's see what verbs use the affix he in their passive voice. The verb shut is 닫다, 닫다 in Korean, and the passive form of it is 닫히다, 닫히다 with the affix he. Please be careful, it's pronounced 닫히다, 닫히다 with a 치 sound. To bury something under the ground is 묻다, 묻다, and to be buried is 묻히다, 묻히다. To eat is 먹다, 먹다, and to be eaten is 먹히다, 먹히다, as you learned. To step on something like someone's foot is 밟다, 밟다. And to be stepped on is 밟히다, 밟히다, 밟히다. To hold or catch is 잡다, 잡다. And to be held or caught is 잡히다, 잡히다. Can you find any routine here? No, you can't. They say the verbs end with a final 그, 드, 부, 즈, 츠. Take the affix he in their passive voice normally, but it's not a rule. So you should remember them all separately while you're practicing. Let's see the verbs with the affix 리 in their passive form then. To press something such as button is 누르다, 누르다. And to be pressed is 눌리다, 눌리다. To push is 밀다, 밀다. And to be pushed is 밀리다, 밀리다. To listen is 듣다. And to be listened is 들리다, 들리다. To solve something such as questions in the exam is 풀다, 풀다. And to be solved is 풀리다, 풀리다. To bite is 물다, 물다. And to be bitten is 물리다, 물리다. It looks like the verbs end with the final l consonant take the affix 리 in their passive form. 듣다 ends with the final d consonant, but it turns into the final l consonant when it meets the initial consonant in the next block. So maybe the verbs with the affix 리 in their passive form is relatively easier for you to remember. Next, let's see what verbs take the affix 기 in their passive form then. To close, like close your eyes, is 감다, 감다. And when you want to use the passive voice, like your eyes are closed, you say 감기다, 감기다. To tear something like paper is 찢다, and to be torn is 찢기다, 찢기다. To cut something such as rope is 끊다, 끊다. And when the rope is cut by someone, you use 끊기다, 끊기다. To hug is 안다, and to be hugged is 안기다, as you learned. Then let's see how the verbs end in 하다 are formed in the passive. To construct, this is what you just learned. To construct is 건설하다, and to be constructed is 건설되다. To love is 사랑하다, and to be loved is 사랑받다, 사랑받다. Yes, you use 받다 for this very verb, love, in the passive. 받다 means to receive. So you can intuitionally know that 사랑받다 means you receive someone's love. That is why it can be the passive voice. To be loved, you receive someone's love. Okay? 사랑받다. And to insult is 모욕하다, 모욕하다. And to be insulted is 모욕당하다, 모욕당하다, 모욕당하다. 당하다 can roughly mean to undergo something unpleasant. That is why 당하다 is used to make the passive form of the verb to insult, 모욕하다. Okay? To be insulted, 모욕당하다, 모욕당하다. To make is 만들다, 만들다. And to be made is 만들어지다, 만들어지다. We are not going to tell you to remember all these passive forms right now, but you should at least try to remember them one by one because Koreans use the passive voice quite a lot in both written and spoken Korean. Then let's see how to make causative forms for other verbs. First of all, you should know that you can even turn certain adjectives into the causative form in Korean, and the adjectives turn into a verb in the causative form. We'll show you what it means very shortly. Let's see the predicates that take the affix e in their causative forms first. To boil. Please listen carefully. This could be quite confusing. When the water boils, when the subject is the water, you use the active verb 끓다, 끓다. However, when someone boils the water, the subject is a person, you should use the causative verb 끓이다, 끓이다 with the affix e in Korean. Strange, isn't it? In English, it's just about the verb taking an object or not. It doesn't even change its form. But in Korean, you use the causative form 끓이다 when you want to say someone boils water, because you are the one who makes the water boil. And the active verb 끓다 is used only as an intransitive verb when something boils. Oh, please don't ask why this time. It's the way it is in Korean, no reason. Let's see the next predicate then. To melt. It's a verb. When you want to say something melts, you use the active verb 녹다 in Korean. But if you want to say you melt something, such as frozen chicken, you should use the causative form 녹이다, 녹이다, 녹이다 with the affix 이. Let's see the next one. To die. It's 죽다, 죽다 in Korean. But if you want to say that you make someone die, in other words, you kill someone, you should use the causative verb 죽이다, 죽이다 with the affix 이. Okay? Therefore, of course, you can think that the translation of the English verb to kill is 죽이다 instead of thinking about the process. Now you just know that 죽이다 is from the verb 죽다, but you don't have to think about the process if you don't want to. This is exactly why we keep saying that you should remember especially the causative verbs separately as different words. Passive verbs can be related to their base forms, but causative verbs can be totally different words like die and kill in English. Okay? Let's see the next predicate. To be cheated. To be cheated is 속다, 속다 in Korean. Cheated is the past participle and it is used as an adjective. But 속다 is an active verb which means to be cheated in Korean. So if you want to say I am cheated or I am deceived, you should use the active form 속다. But if you want to say that I cheat someone or I deceive someone, you use the causative form 속이다, 속이다 with the affix 이. Got it? The next verb is to see. It's 보다 in the active form and it's 보이다 in the causative form. And it has the same form in the passive too, as you've seen earlier. So 보이다 can mean to be seen and it can also mean to show something, which means to let someone see. Okay? 보이다. Let's see the next predicate. To be high. It's an adjective. The base form is 높다, 높다. We cannot say it's the active form because it's an adjective in Korean too, but you can make a causative form with this adjective 높다 with the affix 이. 높이다, 높이다. 높이다 means you make something higher. For example, if you want to say you make the fence around your house higher, you should use the causative form 높이다 in Korean. And 높이다 is not an adjective anymore. It's a verb because it's an action that you make the fence or wall higher. Okay? Then let's see what predicates take the affix he in the causative form. To lie. When you lie down, you use the active form 눕다, 눕다. But when you lay something or someone, you use the causative form 눕히다, 눕히다 with the affix he. To sit. When you sit, you use the active form 앉다, 앉다. But when you sit someone on somewhere like a chair, you use the causative verb 앉히다, 앉히다. Okay? To be cooked. When you want to say something is cooked or something is ripe, you use the active verb 익다, 익다. But when you want to say you cook something, you use the causative form 익히다, 익히다. Cooked and ripe in English are adjectives, but the active form 익다 in Korean is a verb. Please remember that if you can. To wear. When you say you wear something such as clothes, you use the active form 입다. But when you want to say you dress someone such as a child, you use the causative form 입히다, 입히다. To be bright. When you want to say something such as a future is bright, you use the active form 밝다, 밝다. But when you want to say something such as a light brightens a place, you use the causative form 밝히다, 밝히다, because the light made the place bright, right? Then let's see the predicates which take the affix 리 in their causative forms. To fly. When you say the airplane flies, you use the active form 날다, 날다. But when you want to say you fly a kite or a paper airplane, you use the causative form 날리다, 날리다 with the affix 리. To spin. When you spin, you use the active form 돌다, 돌다, 돌다. But when you want to say you spin something such as a bottle, you use the causative form 돌리다, 돌리다, because you made a bottle spin. Okay? Now you know how they work, right? We don't think we have to go through these all together, but let's go through them all together anyway. To cry. When you say I cry, you use the active form 울다, 울다. But when you make someone cry, you use the causative form 울리다, 울리다. To know. When you say you know something, you use 알다, 알다. But when you let someone know or notify something to somebody, you use 알리다, 알리다. Notify, 알리다. Okay? To leave. When you say you leave, you use 살다, 살다. But when you want to say you save someone's life, you use 살리다, 살리다. You make him or her live again. That is why you use this causative form of the verb 살리다 to say that you save someone's life. To be frozen. When you want to say something is frozen in English, you use the adjective frozen. But in Korean, you use the active verb 얼다, 얼다. Okay? Again, when you say something is frozen, you use the active verb. It's a verb. 얼다, 얼다 in Korean. But when you want to say you freeze something such as ice, you should use the causative form 얼리다, 얼리다. Okay? Most of the predicates that take the affix 리 in their causative forms has final l consonant in the stem. So it might be easier for you to remember this one too. Let's take a look at the predicates which take the affix 기 in the causative. To remain. When you say something such as time remains, you use the active form 남다, 남다. But when you want to say you leave something such as a stain on somewhere, you use the causative form 남기다, 남기다 with the affix 기. To laugh. When you say someone laughs, you use 웃다, 웃다. But when you say someone makes you laugh, you use 웃기다, someone 웃기다, you. To hide. When you hide somewhere, you use 숨다, 숨다. But when you hide something somewhere, you use 숨기다, 숨기다. To close. When you close your eyes, you use 감다, 감다. But when someone makes you close your eyes, you use 감기다, 감기다. To take off. When you take off your clothes, you use 벗다, 벗다. But when someone takes off your clothes, you use 벗기다, 벗기다. It's hot in here all of a sudden. To hug. When you hug someone, you use 안다, 안다. But when you make someone hold something in his or her arms, you use 안기다, 안기다, as you know. As you see the stem of the verbs here, you can find out that they have m or n consonant, which has nasal sound as a final, or s consonant as a final. It's not a rule, but you can remember them in that way. The same things are applied to the passive voices. Then let's see the predicates which take the affix 우 this time. This affix 우 is not used for the passive. To wake. When you want to say that you wake up in the morning, you use the active verb 깨다. 깨다. But when you want to say that someone wakes you up, you should use the causative form 깨우다. 깨우다. Because someone made you wake up. Okay? To be empty. When the house is empty, you use 비다. 비다. But when you empty the bottle, you use the causative form 비우다. 비우다 with the affix 우. Okay? By the way, empty is an adjective in English, but the active form 비다 in Korean is a verb. There are some predicates which take the affix 구 in their causative forms. To be heated. To be heated. When an iron is heated, you use the active form 달다. 달다 in Korean. But when you heat something such as an iron, you use the causative verb 달구다. 달구다 with the affix 구. And there are some predicates which take the affix 추 for their causative forms. To be low. When you say something such as a building is low, you use the active form 낮다. 낮다. But when you want to say that you lower your voice, you use the causative verb 낮추다. 낮추다 with the affix 추 because you made your voice lower. Okay? And to be late. When you are late, you use the active form 늦다. 늦다. But when you want to say someone put off a meeting for an hour, you use the causative verb 늦추다. 늦추다 with the affix 추. Okay, this is the end of lesson 8 part 5. You're going to learn transition words in Korean such as and but in the next video. 그럼 다음 비디오에서 만나요. 안녕히 계세요.